Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Original D-Rose, Eli, the Adam Meakin, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Wow.
Good morning. I think 10 went to get some coffee. Some people stepped out.
Wow, wow. I thought I'd warmed everybody up so beautifully in the intro. It's about the third time I've said this in a row. Let's try that one more time. How you all doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Bloody hell. I feel like a host at a crap holiday camp. Okay, well, let's do some housekeeping. Hopefully that'll get you in the mood. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, aka tangent point, formerly known as Earth curve.
I have something. It's the differential between eye level and sea level as you raise in altitude on a flat Earth. That would be your eye level.
On a flat Earth, when you calculate the difference between a horizontal line of vision and a horizontal plane of reference being the ground, then the differential would do what, sorry? Oh, that was in answer to the question of Earth curve. I see. So you're saying the differential and the point that you can calculate would be a geometric point below the surface level that only exists in maths. That's definitely not Earth curve.
No. That's an old 2015 argument, I guess, where they say, but you get the flat earther to say that the horizon is your eye level, and then you can show a differential between your eye level and the horizon and say that's because you're getting higher on a sphere.
Gotcha. So hijacking the differential calculation between eye level and sea level would be the inference that providing you can force your flat earth opponent to definitely affirm that the horizon's going to be level with your eyes, when the ground is lower than your eye level, and they can show it, they can assert that that's a geometric position below surface level in their maths. Gotcha. On a sphere.
Yeah, it's not a great trick, but it worked on, the entire world. So
worked on me in 2015.
Morning, guys.
Morning, Chocolate.
Cool.
Well, it isn't cool. I beg the question of a sphere Earth radius 3959 with a geometric horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet every time we dealt with the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator when debating about the Isle of Man, which is to say that we lost every time we brought up that calculator because it's in the title. It doesn't have any other outcomes. It's an Earth curve calculator. It's only got one outcome. And that's to say that you've got Earth curve when calculating a differential between eye level and sea level.
Well, if you would have noticed surface level in those mathematics, do you think that would have affected the
just
outcome?
Rub my nose right in that. Yeah, that's correct. If I'd have just looked at the diagram a little bit closer and gone, hang on a second, it's marked with surface level. Yeah, that's right, it is.
How'd you miss that, Nathan?
Just dumb.
Everyone missed it. Everyone missed it. What were you talking about? How'd he miss it? Everyone in the topic
I
today
hold Nathan
missed
at a high
it.
standard. You should not have missed that. Don't miss
Neil,
anything else. You're making us look bad.
5 years from now, there will be something that we debated about a year ago or now that is a ball claim to be proof that we go, oh, what do you know? You need a flat earth for that. oh, we spent so much time. And you'll go, how did we miss that? Well, essentially, any uncountered or soon to be encountered, let's just say, globe argument will require a flat earth to make the argument. That's a bold statement there. I'm making it off the back of John, and I'll blame him and say it was his argument if it fails. No, I'm only joking. Right? It's a true statement because Earth is flat, and all of the examples we've used to date required a flat Earth. Retrospectively, we're going back and looking at the arguments that we've used prior and gone, what do you know? It used a flat Earth. So, yeah, there's going to be other things, Neil. All roads lead to a flat Earth. That prior road that we happen to have been on, we didn't know it was a flat Earth road when we were walking it, but now we do.
Excuse me, Nathan. Being that I wasn't there back then, could you elaborate on that specific detail? That
You weren't there, man. You weren't there.
Well, I would like to know. I would like to know. Because I'm oblivious to the
Well,
detail.
stop.
Let's ask his question
You
there.
have to
Hello?
go back.
Hello?
You
Can
have
everyone
to
hear
go
Daryl
back.
asking his question? Go ahead, D.
No, I said because I'm pretty much oblivious right at this very moment of what y'all are talking about as far as what was missed and what was the argument and the portion of the argument that y'all had missed
Fine.
that y'all had already.
Okay,
made.
I'll break it down
You know.
for you.
Can I,
Imagine if we were in a debate about whether or not unicorns were real, and we went to the How to Calculate Unicorn Digestion book and argued about the process of the digestion inside unicorns. Can you appreciate that the moment you start arguing about unicorn digestion in a book that assumes all unicorns are real, you've already lost? Do you understand?
Yes, I do understand.
Right. We used to argue with the ballers, and the book that we opened to argue them about was the Earth Curve Calculator, now referred to as the Begging the Question, Proof of Nothing, Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve Calculator. It's called that because from within, while we were losing, begging the question alongside them that Earth is a sphere in the calculation, it's in the title, we figured out all the flaws of the calculation and how it had utilised perspective and, as we're discussing now, a differential calculation between eye level and sea level. Those were the things that we went through to understand the lie. But every time we had the debate, we lost, just so we're clear. Stressful times. I lost a lot of sleep back then.
With the unit.
Got it.
Hope that's clear. Was there another question? Go ahead, whoever that was.
well, Don was going to say
I was
something
just
same
gonna-
time as me. So I'll go after him.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
Yeah, I was just going to say that all you had to do at the time was look and see that the Unicorn Digestion book was in the fiction section of the library, and the argument would never have happened. Is
Right.
the point we're making now?
Indeed. Exactly. Well summarised. Go ahead, Brian.
But to this
Yeah.
day, Jaron is doing the same thing y'all were doing a few years ago. He's just feeding the beast.
Right, so
feast of
good point. Just before you go, Brian, I'm really sorry. Hold that thought. Hopefully you can. Exactly. So back when I was ignorant, someone reached out to me and said, "You're ignorant. Let me educate you." And I went, "All right." In other words, I wasn't standoffish or combative about it or defensive of the shite that I'd been spouting for quite some time. I was like, "All right, so I'm wrong about that then. Oh dear. What do you know?" So over time, that person reaching out and taking a huge chunk of their life to educate me for no benefit at that particular moment. They didn't know that I'd be going necessarily forth with their information. I could have fought them on it. Talking about quantum eraser in case you haven't figured out. And him disseminating the scientific method and various other things to me. Well, I could have been like Jaron and just been standoffish and combative. Why? What am I doing? Why am I doing it with Jaron? Well, to benefit him. So he does better. So he progresses this subject for all of us. So that an audience can better understand how science proves things. So they can recognise a charlatan's claim of science that doesn't have any methodology to call it science. Once people understand how they've been lied to with science, by saying, I understand what science actually is, therefore, more importantly, I understand what you say is science isn't. And here's how. That's what we're trying to get across to people, and we want Jeran to be on side, so he can disseminate the same thing to benefit humanity and realise how they have been lied to. Once the great and washed general public understand how science actually proves things, when someone says, your hair will be shinier with Timotei, here comes the science part, they'll say, really? Is that even a cause and effect relationship to put through the method? In other words, they've got a good understanding of how they're being lied to, with magic words that make you instinctually know that something's been proven. Oh, science? Oh, what, proving things? That's what it means. It's synonymous for your average Joe. Science, experiment, theory, they all mean proof as far as every Joe normie is concerned. So therefore, you've only got to use that word if you're describing an angular size change, for example, Dave Weiss. You've only got to say something like, scientifically, you can prove that. And everybody who's listening to you nods along and goes, wow, this guy really knows his stuff. Yeah, it's a really cool magic trick. Right up until the point that someone like me, or Quantum Eraser, or anybody on this panel says, oh, really? You can prove that scientifically, end quote, Dave Weiss. Let me examine how you, quote, proved that scientifically, end quote. Let's see the method that you put it through. Let's see if you even know what the word means. Let's see if you can define science. Oh, you can't? So why did you use the word? You didn't know what it meant, you couldn't define it, but yet you're just using it to convince people of your shite. All right, well, that makes you look like a fraud, doesn't it? And understanding where science is being used to claim proof, but hasn't been through the scientific method, is where we expose baller charlatans. Oh no, what are you going to do? There's also flat earth charlatans doing the same thing. I couldn't care less. Oh right, but when I expose them, I'm a scammer, am I? Nah. I mean, you could be humble and go, oh yeah, while I was saying I could prove an angular size change with science, actually I didn't really understand what science was. Now I'm bettering myself by relieving myself of my own ignorance. So I can defeat people who claim to have science by telling them they haven't and showing them that they haven't. And win. That's how this benefits us. That's the point of all of this. With Jeran going around doing the antithesis of that, which is saying, science can't prove anything. Oh, really? Why the hell does Dave Weiss say he can with it then? Because he's using the same magic trick we've all been conned with. That's why. And we expose that. So it's far easier to shut down the smaller channel by just turning everyone away from them, poisoning them, telling them that they're scammers. Because most people won't do the due diligence to come and actually check whether or not we're disseminating truth or not, or how we're disseminating the information, or whether or not science proves things. Nobody will do that. They'll just take Jeran at his word. Now, do I blame them? No, most people are lazy. So when Jeran says, this person's a scammer, they'll go, all right, well, I definitely won't be subscribing to them. Or automatically unsubscribing if they are already. At his word. Now, Jeran knows that. He iterates it to me continually via text messages. That's what he wants to do. Shut down the people that can expose the scam of claims of science where there isn't any methodology being adhered to. Same scam the Globe was using. So make no mistakes about what's going on here. Now, also bear in mind that through the shite that I'm wading through with Jeran being called a scammer and his detriment to my income, I am also reaching out to him and still attempting to educate him in this stuff, you notice. During that discussion, I'm still trying to actually help him, trying to show him where he can benefit this discussion and highlight the scammers that he's done such a good job of doing so far, but ultimately thrown the baby out with the bathwater by not recognising that, yeah, the reason everyone who's lying with science hasn't got any proof is because it was really useful to infer that they had, because that's what science does, if you adhere to the method, which most people don't, including Dave Weiss and Bob and Whitsit, and yeah, it's going to expose them. But unfortunately, that's a lesson they will learn the hard way. Tough luck. Are we here to protect Dave Weiss? Are we here to expose the truth of flat Earth? What's your objectives here? Because when we're hearing Jeran's objective, he's telling us how we should be assuming Earth can work as a sphere, with tangents we assume that won't give him GPs. And how it's detrimental for me to acknowledge how things will work on a sphere, That's what he's telling his audience currently, rather than just admitting that he's wrong. So he can benefit his argumentation. Not so I can gloat. I don't benefit when Jaron finally goes, oh, bloody hell, yeah, I see. By saying I've proven this with science when they haven't, everybody nods. But by me understanding that science does prove things, but they haven't been through the method when they claim it, I can call them out on it and show where they're charlatans and fraudsters. But oh no, that's a double-edged sword, isn't it, Jaron? As I found out very quickly. Yes, suddenly you find that that sword cuts both ways. It doesn't just decapitate globers who claim that they've got science that they haven't got any validity or methodology to back. It also chops flat earthers' heads off. And that's the sword that I've just passed to you, Jaron. And everyone's seen it being passed to you. And I'm telling my audience that I'm not going to give up on you and your ignorance of science. I will persist. So that you can better yourself and the community that we all love. I'm done.
Okay.
Just
Well,
Can I get in?
just so you know, I found a citation for the scientific method.
I just want to make two notifications. One being, I'll make it quick. Like David Weiss saying it completely different. These guys don't have a group culture of correcting each other. They don't do that like we do. We do it with everybody. We do it with each other. They don't do it with each other. If they disagree, then they agree to disagree and they don't address it anymore. So it's not surprising that they have completely different remarks they're making and they're being inconsistent with each other, even though they're supporting.
Okay, I'll get you, Owen. We'll come back to the double standards and hypocrisy of Jaron later. But Bob, about to call you Paul. John's got something to say. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, my son recently brought his science homework home. He's in 6th grade. And guess what it was on? The scientific method. Yes, sir. And it made sure to make the distinction between quantitative and qualitative. It walked through cause and effect reasoning. All the stuff we cover is there. This information is not hidden. It's just not cited because you're supposed to know it before you leave grade school.
There's more to it than that. Once you understand at that age, right, that science is proving something and they drill it into you with all of the methodology, you quickly forget, you move on, you're young. So although it will stay there because you've had a lesson on it, enough to keep it in your mind, it's not something that you're going to keep in the forefront of your mind beyond the conclusion that science can prove things. So then, like I say, when you, 15 years later, hear someone in authority with a white coat say that they've proved something with science, you don't necessarily say to yourself, I remember my 6th grade lesson about cause and effect reasoning and independent and dependent variables. No, you're not going to do that. Do you know what I mean? That's why they teach you early enough to understand that it's proving something, but not so late that you will retain it to challenge someone that doesn't actually have that methodology. So, yeah and no. But your point was more valid than my critique. It's more of an add-on than a critique, actually.
If you want a live demonstration of what you and John just went over in Master B, AI Overlord has a 55-second clip of Jaron doing it with Theo Megaworthy. That's worth interrupting our thing just to hear that, and then go back to our video again.
Message from AI Overlord for
Did
Nathan.
Adam have something to say?
Can just give us a sec. For Nathan's attention, quote, Jaron tells guest point of science is to always be wrong. Okay.
Indicative of your intelligence, like globe earthers think that you're smart if you take every bit of your beliefs from somebody else. They literally do not have any beliefs of their own. I mean, you don't need to ask Simon Dan one question about one belief, because all you need to do is look in a physics book and whatever it says is what he believes. To me, there's no more worthless existence than that. If I literally had no beliefs of my own, I believed what science said, and that was it. I mean, what a joke. Science has been proven wrong over and over. That's the point of science. It's always wrong, and it always will be. And it will always only get us closer to the truth as long as you have people telling the truth. But we have people now who can get away with gross lies. Look what happened with COVID.
Okay. You say something
Well,
about...
I was just
That's
about-
pseudoscience, stupid.
Science doesn't say anything.
No, it's not got lips.
That just demonstrated, sorry, John, just let me finish. That just demonstrated why they teach you in 6th grade. And then later, when you know it's a proven method, they lie to you by citing it, but never going through it.
Well, the thing is, right, you can find 1 + 1 = 2 in any math book for children. You're not going to find a book in college or in a mathematics journal that's going to tell you that 1 + 1 = 2. To ask for a citation of it is so ignorant that you know, what, I have to take you back to grade school to make you understand this? No, that's not my job. You know, the fact that that's having to be done should be more disturbing than anything else.
Okay, so in the pre-show, we were covering a bit of Jaren's excerpts after I had left the discussion. So about 2 hours in, if you want to go and check it out. So that's what we were doing in the pre-show. We're going to continue listening to Jaren's remarks because they are, as 10th Man suggested, very telling.
Can't get elevation angles from a curved surface. Well, the way that they say the globe works is that there's no place that we're standing that is curved to the point that we can't take a tangent and say, we don't even need to take a tangent. You're standing on the earth. You look up.
So this was already highlighted by John earlier, but I'll just reiterate John's point from earlier, right? We ask in the housekeeping questions, if you pay attention, whether or not you can get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. Just going to say that one more time. We ask in the housekeeping questions whether or not you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. Now, what Jeren has just gone on to detail is McToon's argument in respect to presupposing a spherical Earth and utilizing a tangent to the presupposed curved Earth. That's what we're having as a rebuttal in regards to how you can, because Jeren is currently appealing to his audience to understand how dangerous it is to not concede that you can do celestial navigation on a sphere. And he's appealing to his audience in regards to my declarations of how you can only acquire an elevation angle measurement from a flat baseline as being, quote, dangerous to the community. So just so you know, and we're all clear where we're at in this discussion, Jeren's highlighting the dangers of not conceding how celestial navigation can be done on a sphere. He is, in fact, a flat earther if you are unaware who Jeren is. Believe it or not.
Look up at the star. Oh, it's at 45 degrees. They're claiming that you can't look up at something in the sky and say it's 45 degrees unless it's flat. Well,
that's correct, because 45 degrees is an angle. One of the lines, the baseline, is straight and flat and cannot curve, or it would not be an angle. I can't believe I'm having to slow down my timbre for a fellow flat earther who is literally telling his audience I am a scammer for disseminating this flat earth proof. I can't quite believe what has become of this community. I can't quite believe it.
Yeah, Nathan, this was the other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, shit, chocolate. Sorry. This the other part is that people like Jeren, when they get desperate enough, they'll throw anything under the bus for a short-term win. It's just the way they roll. It's really sad and pathetic, but it's more about the win for them than about upholding truth or a truth about something on the long run. And that's the real problem that we get to face when we put them in the corner.
Yeah. No good deed goes unpunished.
They're throwing the win under the bus. Like the win itself. I mean, while we have Globers coming in here telling us all about how they need a flat plane, they're using a flat plane to get elevation angles. We got Jeren telling them, no, you could use a sphere.
Right.
What are you talking about?
The only reason, the only reason
we say we use flat, so he must then oppose us because everything we say is now wrong according to Jeren, because it has to be.
The only reason he's having the discussion with Toon in the first place is because we've highlighted this flat earth proof. So Toon, rather than coming here and facing the music, has gone to a weaker opponent that doesn't understand the argument to try and get around it, to circumvent the position that we put forth. Well, because Jaren's had his ass handed to him by Toon, he's decided to disseminate to the audience that we should be understanding the dangers of not recognising where Toon handed him his ass. Okay, that's what it's basically saying. It's nuts. This is what our community's come of. Rather than recognising and understanding a flat earth proof that's stone cold and used daily, he's telling his audience how dangerous it is to not recognise how smart Toon is with the information Toon gave him about how it can be done on a globe when taking it.
On the back of what Chocolate said. Go on.
Wow.
On the back of what Chocolate said. Toon is looking for someone in Flat Earth community to use against us. He found a willing participant in Jaren and the gang. And here's why. Because we called their Feast of Nonsense out on other matters. So Toon can't come here and defend it. As Chocolate says, all these Globers, anti-flat earthers come here and say, yeah, you're right. You need a baseline. You need a 90. Well, of course you need a flat earth to get an elevation angle. Jaren, on the other hand, goes on Toon and says the opposite of that. Why? It was pointed out earlier in the video. Jealousy, anger, because we called their Feast of Nonsense out. They don't like to be critiqued in review videos. Why are you guys doing review videos on fellow flat earthers? Why do you have our pictures on thumbnails? Well, if you stop saying stupid stuff, maybe we wouldn't have it.
Zanik comes in. Okay. Oh, yeah, we use a flat plane. Unorthodox comes in. Yeah, we use a flat plane. Triangles. Yeah, you use a flat baseline. Jaren, yeah, you could get an angle from a sphere.
Yeah, I did do that, didn't you? What?
Yeah, but this is the result.
Wow.
This is a result of me for over 2 years now trying to get people to promote and take notice of the dip correction, and nobody has. And I've been watching only in just recent days, not just a while ago. This is a constant thing, and it's growing thanks to Jaren. There are people saying, flat earthers in Discord, because I've been reading, and on YouTube, right, saying, you could use a tangent plane, because nobody paid attention to the thing that I tried my best to get you to pay attention to, and that's why we're in this position.
Well,
Don't pay attention.
If you say so, we'll focus as much as you like on dip correction. That's where they're hijacking the claim to bring up Earth curve. I know, Brian. The penny only dropped 2 or 3 days ago, but you don't need to play the martyr just yet. Just to educate everybody on it.
I'm not playing the martyr. I'm pointing out what has the truth, Nathan.
I tried to tell you. Okay, you did.
In the face.
You did. You did try to tell us, and I'll concede. Right, Brian, I was dumb. Right, I fought you on it initially, and then it's taken a good solid year for me to actually understand the importance of the dip correction. That's where they're introducing Earth curve where it doesn't belong, in lieu of merely correcting your height above the sea level. It's incredibly important, and frankly, I've got to apologise to you because I immediately said it wasn't even. I said not even relevant, doesn't even need considering, and we had a massive row over it. I remember it like it was yesterday. Right? Well, right now, right here, I concede how wrong I was about that, Brian. It is important. And we do need to go over it more, and we will. So I don't want you to become a martyr because it hasn't been taken heed of now. Well, yeah, a couple of days ago. I can't remember what it was that you specifically said that made me go, oh, yeah. It's the only route to reintroduce an Earth curve, isn't it, Brian? So you need to know about it so that they can't reintroduce it, right?
Yeah, because what they must do is add in a correction that doesn't exist. Because their correction, the correction is for the height of the eye of the observer above the water underneath their boat. But they must add in a correction that goes below that. So their correction is greater than what is in the almanac. Right. It has to be, if they're talking about a globe.
So once you know that, you can just hold them to task on what they're going to be correcting for. How's that geometric horizon working out for you, by the way, Rufi? Just while we're on the subject. Shout out to Ted. Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec. Shout out to Ted, who says Jaren is a Karen. Thank you for the super chat, but just let's just. It was the same in the chat when I premiered the show. There's just lots of personal attacks. It's like, no, just try and focus on the argument. Anyway, thank you for the super chat.
Wanted to say, like, so dip correction, the ballers use it and then inflate it to basically try to get their curvature back.
No, they can't. No, they can't. No.
That's where you overcome it. That's how you overcome it.
Yeah, I make it simple. If you stand up right now, right, the dip correction for you right now, if you were going to do it using the room you're standing in, would be between the height of your eye and the floor underneath your feet. Now, the floor over at the wall is the same height as the one underneath your feet. It's the same horizontal, let's just say, right? That's the dip. So if you wanted to take a point on the wall that you're making an elevation angle to, and you want to correct it so you have a right angle triangle, well, what you've got to do is correct either that line that's on above that line, either up to your eye, the line that's on the floor in front, yeah, or bring the vertex that's at your eye down to the floor. They're correcting for a place underneath the floor. They're not really correcting, but they're trying to claim that that's the dip when it's not.
It's the geometric dip correction in place of the apparent dip correction. So do they use an apparent horizon or a geometric?
No, they don't use anything. No, they can't. Correction is
Let me just say again, Brian, because I tried to say to him, that's where you correct them, because that's where they can't take a massive dip to a geometric horizon below surface level when you're only correcting for eye level above sea level. That's Brian's point. That's where you get them, as opposed to that's where they try to reintroduce it. When you understand it, that's where you stop them and point out, no, your dip would be enormous because you've got a geometric Earth curve. If you're saying the horizon's miles away and that's Earth curve, well, if it's dropped below your position to this massive extent, then the correction's going to be enormous. But it's not. It's just height of eye correction. It's really basic.
Well, the outcome is going to be...
They would say it's all in the optical realm, though, and it's before terrestrial refraction is applied.
But this is not. See, there you go. You're being hoodwinked by them. This has nothing to do with their curve or their over 6 hour. This has got to do with only your height of eye above the water underneath your boat. That's the amount you're correcting for. So if you take their horizon, which would have to be below that water underneath your boat in elevation, then that would mean that their correction has to be greater than the height of eye correction. And that means that at the observer, what you'll have is an angle that's you'll have something that's greater than a 90-degree angle, and at the GP of the celestial body, you'll have something that's less than a 90-degree angle. And when you do that 3 times for 3 different sightings, right, that will mean that your circles of equal altitude will be off, and everything will always be off. The point is that it can't work because it has no precision. You're never going to have a 90-degree to work with.
Come on, guys.
It doesn't work.
Is that how they do it?
Hello, right? Look, hello, everyone stop.
Yeah.
Hello, right. Given that I only understood this 2 days ago, I'm going to put my foot down and say what an outrage it is that you're all just walking straight past Brian's point like I've done for the last year. How dare you all? Can you at least acknowledge this point from Brian?
I'm trying to clarify.
I shall.
Hold on, let's just deal with Arwin first. No,
I'm just trying to clarify.
Hold on.
For myself.
Everyone, calm down. No, we'll deal with you first, Arwin. No, you immediately took it to the optical in their claim with the geometric horizon and tried to juxtapose it with the optical aspect. And Brian corrected you and said, no, it is merely your height above sea level.
Right. Yeah, but that's
Right.
I wasn't like, oh, that's a globe got you. I'm just clarifying what's actually happened in their minds, what happens in reality, and this specific process takes officially place in the optical, which the ballers will try to exploit by compartmentalizing the optical with the geometrical. I wasn't going there, but it is.
Okay, that is just,
probably
I'll
happening.
acknowledge that, fine. That is also true. But it's just not necessarily what Brian was trying to highlight here and has been trying to do so for a long time. Now it's finally dawned on me how important it is, given it's the single route back in to even try and attempt to assert Earth curve. In this particular instance, it's worth knowing how it doesn't work. Straight off the cuff. Now, Brian's gripe, I just want to reiterate Brian's gripe and then I'll stop. And then whoever's next, right? Brian's gripe is that had we have paid attention where I stopped him 12 months ago, we would have nipped this in the bud, and this wouldn't be an issue right now that I'm dealing with Jeran, because it would have been nipped in the bud to the point where Toon would have had no confidence to go to Jeran with it in the first place, because no one around him would have fell for the dupe, because we would have already nipped it in the bud. I'm right in my gripe, correct, Brian?
Yes.
No.
Yes, Nathan.
No, they would have still messed it up. Brian
of course.
is right.
Notwithstanding, they'd have done something bloody else, of course. But
Well, let me finish. Let me finish. But I'm gonna give it up to D-Rose because he's next, and I'll say what I gotta say.
I was gonna say, and I'm not saying this just to be pat myself in the back, but being that I'm the thickest one here, thick on both sides, but I've always been on the fence of hating the globe side because I just never believed in it coming into this. I understood what Brian was saying. Whether I could re-articulate it myself, I didn't master that then, but I understood what he was saying because I'm just looking at it like line of sight, the horizontal, the parallel horizontal going outward. The distance of my feet to my eyes was what, I'm 5'7", so I would say 4 feet something inches, whatever. I mean, so consistency to go straight out, whether 50, 500, or 5,000 miles, I knew that it didn't.
Stop.
Huh?
Don't worry about that. Let's make it simple.
I'm layman. I'm trying to do it as simple as I can. Like
Let's make it
You
simple.
didn't. I already know you misunderstood it.
What would happen if you had a lobster boat next to an aircraft carrier? Both looking at the space.
Hello.
Maybe 10 people talk at the same time.
Just Brian, please.
Yeah. The dip correction is from your oil line down to the water underneath your boat. If you make that now your oil line down to the floor your feet are on, that is your.
Oh no! I'm sorry.
Hang on.
Hold on, D-Rose. Just hang on.
Right. That is your dip correction. If you're trying to correct to the floor underneath your feet, that is your dip correction from your oil line to the floor. Now, if that, right, that means that it doesn't matter wherever your horizon is, right, how far away it is, or anything else, that horizon, right, because your correction can either be bringing the vertex of that angle, right, you can describe it two ways, from the oil line down to the floor at your feet, to make a 90 degrees at your point and at the point of the and at let's just say and at the GP of the celestial body you're looking at, or right, you can bring the line that would be going from your oil line to your horizon up to your eyes, but that's the same amount of correction. It doesn't matter whether you're bringing the line up or the vertex down; the amount of correction is the same. But if you're in the distance, there's a curve going down away from you, and you're bringing the line from the point of that curve up to, trying to bring that up to your oil line, then that's more of a correction, a greater correction than what is your height of eye above the floor you're standing on. That means that doesn't exist in celestial navigation. It has nothing to do with celestial navigation, and you won't get the 90 degrees at your position and the GP of the celestial body that you require to do this. So you won't have that.
I get that 1,000%. And what I made a mistake when I said ground, I was using your example when you had said as simple as if you're standing on the ground. That's what I was using that part as far as a simple person. Now, I used to be in the Navy. I know what that is. I know the distance being on an aircraft carrier and on an amphibious ship. Those are different distances of the sea level to the deck where we're standing on because of the size of those ships. So I know it varies. But what I was saying, I was breaking it down simple, like you had said initially when you said even as simple as if you're standing, that's the distance between your feet and your eyes. I wasn't saying in celestial navigation. I was just talking about as far as the angle, the distance, the eye level going straight out. Our eyes cannot see if we're on a cliff, 10 feet from a cliff, and see down the earth. We see straight across the sky. That's how our sight goes, whether you want to say...
Let me make it easy for you, D-Rose. Let me make it easy for you. Brian is spot on. Okay. The counter proves Brian's point. What's the counter? When you don't do dip correction. This is the show Adam and I did with Mitchell in Australia. This was at the beginning. Okay, so we've all been singing the same tune. If the penny just dropped for you, great. When do you not take dip correction? When you have an artificial horizon where you establish a horizontal with a spirit level. Oh, so I got to have a flat baseline.
Just one sec. Okay, yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. When this originated, and you're saying if we'd have nipped in the bud and also understood what they do to infer Earth curve by saying we're doing a dip correction from Earth curve, our original counter and my reasoning behind saying it wasn't worth our time was because, well, you can do the same thing if you've got your literal eyes on the ground, i.e. there's no correction to make, or on the sea, in a QE's now developed into a rubber ducky life preserver sextant argument. But also, as 10th is now pointing out, if you're up at elevation and maybe you don't even see the horizon, well, you use a sextant that's got a little bubble in it. So instead of having to correct, where Brian's point comes back in, from your height of eye back down to the surface level, you don't need to make the correction because you've got a little bubble that already gives you level. How convenient. But when you use a
problem with that.
No, I know you do. Everyone stop. I'm saying that's where the original problem began. Right, Brian? That's what I'm trying to say. Yes.
And I tell you why. And I know I'm not saying 10th is wrong. Because when it comes to celestial navigation, he's 100% correct. But this is why I went against the whole artificial horizon and bubble bubble sextant argument. Not that I have a problem with them. It's good to know about them and have them in your arsenal, right? But the problem is that the ballers will keep on, and they have kept on bringing up artificial horizon and bubble sextant, right? They don't want to deal with the marine sextant because the reason they don't, when it comes to me, I can't speak for other people, they will try their best not to talk about the marine sextant with me because I bring them straight to dip correction. Because they can use that, they can beg the question with that artificial horizon or that bubble sextant, right? And say that's the tangent they're making, even though the tangent won't be touching their sphere in an airplane, but doesn't matter. That's what they're going to do.
But at that point, now the penny's dropped, I can actually add to Brian's rather than detract from it. There is no dip correction then.
Yeah, they can get to avoid it then. They get to not have to deal with it. The dip correction deals with just leave me a moment.
Okay.
If the water, right, at your horizon, regardless of how far away it is, if it's 4 miles away, a mile away, or 15 miles away, 50 miles away, that has to be in a horizontal with the water underneath your boat for dip correction to work. Because that is what you're using. It doesn't matter if you're bringing the vertex down and using mean sea level as your horizontal, or bringing the line that goes from your eye to the horizon up. The correction is the same. So with the dip correction, you're always referencing the actual Earth itself. The geometric Earth, you're referencing that. So consequently, that horizon can't be in a horizontal with the water underneath your boat if you're on a globe. It just can't. No matter how much over 6 hour you try and add in, it can't be. Right. Now, they can't add in over. There's a greater argument. There's more to it than that, right, that I can destroy them with. But the main point is that you're referencing the surface of Earth, so they can't use a tangent plane. They can't, we just use a tangent plane, get an angle, then bring it to the center of the globe. They can't do that with dip correction. They can't get past dip correction. End of. None of them can.
We're saying the same thing, but in different ways. Yes. I totally agree with Brian. If you look at the image I put in Master B, tell me when you're there, Nathan.
I had it up at the right moment when Brian was going through it, actually.
No, the new one I just put.
Oh, okay.
On dip. And to the far right, you see a box.
Got it. Yeah, it's up.
Okay. Summary of dip angles for various heights of observation above sea level. 0.0 at sea level. Look at the submarine one underneath. Observer's horizon, geoidal horizon. Here we come. That little curve, that little dingleberries there now. The Nautical Almanac and the site reduction tables, this should be capitalized. Assume that the sites are taken at sea level. Okay? For instance, from the periscope of a submarine barely emerging above the water, the rubber ducky. No dip required. Everything Brian said is right, and the Globers want to tie you up in the pretzel, and Brian keeps taking them back to the Mariner sextant and kills them. Absolutely right. But I'm going to back up the Mariner sextant by saying the other way of doing it is proving the very same point. The reason you don't take dip correction with an artificial horizon, whether it be a pan of Mercury, flat, leveled, or a spirit level, is because you've already established that horizontal, meaning negating any curve that Brian is trying to show wouldn't work with the Mariner sextant. They both work in destroying this image of that dingleberry. One is coming from that point, and Brian's point, keeping them on the Mariner sextant, choice them.
A couple of quick shout outs before we do. Sorry, Brian, one sec. Shout out to DALA for joining as a member. Thank you very much indeed. Also, Theo Megawerty, who sends $2 and says, how many curvilinear... Try that one more time. Lick my lips first. How many curvilinear horizontals does a flat globe have? Thank you for the super chat, Theo.
Yeah, I have issues with that thing, and I'll tell you why. Because the rubber ducky, right? When you ask them if my oil line is right at the sea surface, then I don't have to correct for any dip. They'll just go, yeah, because as far as they're concerned, what they're doing is secretly they're calling that the tangent point where your oil line is, that they're going to put their tangent plane on. And when you bring up the bubble sextant or artificial horizon, they're also calling them tangent planes. But they can't do that when you're actually doing dip correction. When you must use dip correction, which you always will when you're on a ship or a boat, because you're always going to be above the surface of the water. At that point, you must use the surface of the water, right, as your horizontal reference.
No disagreement. Agree 100% with you.
But hang on. Give me a second. Give me a second. The point I'm trying to make is that when you do rubber ducky, which is always at the sea surface, or you do artificial horizon or bubble sextant, all three of them allow them to beg the question and start adding in a tangent plane that they're not even telling you about, right? And they'll use your words to say, see, it's just a tangent. That's the point where the tangent plane will be, or that's where we will use the tangent plane. And then we're going to move it to the center of our globe and measure an arc length. Whereas with dip correction, you can't do that. When you actually have to do the dip, you must reference the surface of the water, and the water must have horizontal baseline.
Yes.
You must see that. That's the point. So the point. Just give me a second. You must admit there is no way to create the 90 at the GP and the 90 at the observer without doing the dip correction. And to do that, that means the water at the horizon that you see has to be in an exact horizontal with the water underneath your boat.
100%.
The mean of that.
100%. We're not talking about anti-flat earthers and globers who hijack language.
Please don't do that.
Let me finish.
Just stop a second. Just stop. We are. That's exactly what he's doing.
I know, but let me finish, please. When you're talking about correctly representing the different methods of doing it, whether a bubble sextant, a pan of Mercury, or the sea horizon with Mariner sextant, they all must comply to the same reading. It all has to match, or else you're never going to get it right. So if the other two have a straight horizontal, what do you think high divide to seawater means to sea level is? Same horizontal. It's just another way of proving it. Now, Brian, of course, with these people, we always stick to the Mariner sextant. We always do to the horizon. We always do bringing the eye to the sea level, and it's over for them. It can't be curving more over that. Yeah, I agree, 100%. It's just for educating the audience in all the different methods do not contradict each other, even though these anti-flat earthers and ballers want to convolute it.
You're right. It is, number one, if there's no... Brian's point is, we originally would say, well, look, if you do it with a bubble, there's no correction to be made, therefore no Earth curve to infer. Brian's saying otherwise. He's saying, nah, you've missed a trick, and they've exploited it. Because the moment you say, all right, you're utilising the bubble to establish a tangent, nudge, nudge, wink, wink to the guy next to them, because they don't say it. But at that point, Brian's saying, the moment you use the level or bubble sextant, they're going to say, yeah, you've established a tangent to a plane a tangent to a sphere at that point. How wonderful. I don't even have to say it because I can infer it later.
You can't. I can't. I'll tell you why you can't.
And we know why you can't. I originally fought that argument, 10th. But I'm just saying this is where
gosh, just give me a minute. It's very simple. I always do it the way Brian does it with the Mariners. It's the true kill. Got it. Everyone got it. Brian and I, same page, same argument.
We're all on the same
Agreed
page.
100%. Okay. When you say I do it, when you say they say I do the bubble to establish a tangent and it works on the sea surface of that surface that's curving out, it can't. One's a true horizontal, the other one is curving away. It can't give you the same reading. It destroys it by the other method.
And we stress that. Hold on. Just one sec. We stress that regularly, 10th, don't we?
Right. That's right. I agree with Brian. There's no argument here.
This is getting tedious. Yes, but Brian is pointing out that out on the circuit, when he's debating with the anti-flat earthers, he's disseminating what he has to come up against and how they utilise it. Now, you're right, and I will always side with you. I just want Brian to understand why, when I explain this. We will try and disseminate what actually occurs more often than not. But there are going to be certain circumstances, like now, where Brian is explaining, but this is how they try, fallaciously, to get around it, and how I undo their fallacious attempt. That's what.
And I'm agreeing with him.
I know you are. But,
okay, that's it.
Okay, good.
We're good. We're good.
No, I don't think you are, 10th.
No, I am.
We'll fight more about how we agree.
No, because as a baller, I can use the artificial horizon or the bubble sextant, and I can say I'm measuring a horizontal distance, but then when I bring that to the center of the globe, the angle measures the exact distance as an arc.
No, right? That's not what I'm doing.
But
don't put words in my mouth. That's not what I do.
Why are you arguing with me? I'm trying to tell you what they're doing.
I know, and I'm telling you, I do it.
If you know, then I understand you understand.
No, you're not listening.
But if you knew my position, please leave me finish. If you knew my position, you would realize.
I know your position. We share notes all the time together.
I know, but I don't think you fully do understand this point I've been trying to make.
I get it, Brian. I don't start off with the bubble sextant. I do the Mariners, and then when they're deep in the hole, I could use that. The way I
never bring up the bubble sextant.
I know, but I have a different.
It allows them a way out.
Guys, both of you.
No, if I do it your way, there is no way out.
Hello, you both just take a breath for 1 second. Thank you.
I'm not looking to have an argument. My point is, right, besides arguing now with 10th, my point is this, that if we had focused on the dip correction when I wanted you to focus on it, I would say Jaron would still be saying the stupid shit he's saying. Sorry for the language, Nathan. He'd still be saying that. But all the other flat earthers that I say wouldn't be going, you probably could make it work with the tangent plane. Because none of them focused on the dip correction because they learned everything via this show, and we didn't focus enough on the dip correction.
I beg to differ.
Bloody matter.
That's my point.
From the beginning, from the purchases of the books, from understanding this, taking a year to do the study by myself, then dripping it on, I always brought up dip correction.
Okay, who cares?
I always cited dip correction.
From that perspective.
And if they don't do it,
okay, guys. No offense.
Hang on. And if they don't do it, they're off by 20 or 40 miles. So
you're
you
both arguing with
it.
each other about how you argue with ballers currently. Okay? It's going to be difficult for the audience to follow along. No offense. But can we just save it?
I know, but I don't want the audience to think that dip correction was somehow not addressed from the beginning and ongoing. I've been doing it. It's the basis of everything.
Sure,
I didn't say you said that.
From the beginning, it's evolved.
Okay, let me clear it up.
Brian's just clarifying how it's evolved from an anti-flat earth position that he's countered. That's all he's doing. And we're not saying we don't agree. Can you just chill? Everyone chill. Nobody's saying we disagree, but Brian is just highlighting, because he's a martyr, that we could have done better, and I agree with him.
I've never changed what Brian is saying. I've always done it the way Brian is saying. I've never changed.
Okay,
that's my point.
Okay, I haven't. It may not be directed at you, 10th.
It's not directed at you, 10th, but this part, I'm sorry, will be directed at you, but not in a bad way, right?
Heaven help us.
Right, and Adam too, right? So it's not just right? Not just tenths. When you started bringing the bubble sextants and the artificial horizon into it publicly, I was fine about learning about it privately, but when that started being bringing into it, it started creating routes away from the Mariner sextant and away from dip correction, and to dip or not to dip, that whole thing allowed for the ballers to use things like the bubble sextant and the artificial horizon as tangent planes. So we have to realize we're not just detailing celestial navigation here. We're detailing what we're dealing with. Where they're going to use these things.
Right.
And the one thing they can't use, is the dip correction. That's why I argued with you when you first started bringing the artificial horizon, the bubble sextant into it publicly. Brian, I argued against that.
Brian, why do you think I brought it up early on to preempt it? My goodness.
Yeah, but my point at the time, Tent, was that we should know about it for when they go and bring it up. We should know about it.
Well, that's why I brought it up. That's why I brought it up, so we would know about it.
Sorry to interrupt you both.
No,
sorry
you're missing it.
Shout out to Theo Megaworty, who says, the point of science is always wrong. Oh, it's in quotes. Did Jaron? Yeah, I think that was in Flatsource?
Yeah, that was in his video.
No, we played it earlier, didn't we? Did we not play that earlier?
Yeah, we did. We played it.
What's going on? What's going on? Hello, trying to shout out a super chat. Can you just put a lid on it just for a couple of seconds? Please. I know you're both really triggered with each other for seemingly no reason.
I'm answering your question. We played that video. I'm asserting you played it and he said it.
Okay. Right. Thank you. My bad.
Yeah,
sorry.
Let's move on to Jaren's video. We'll discuss this in the after show. We're not in disagreement at all.
Okay. You up for that, Brian?
Right, yeah.
Want to check Brian's cool?
Yeah, I don't mind. We can discuss it later. It's okay. I'm not going to make an argument out of it.
Coming up on the hour anyway. Anyway.
Well, what if you lived on a sphere? If you lived on a sphere, it would be impossible to look at stars and get angles? No, because you could just say, well, let's just say where I'm standing is a tangent. That's all it is. Now, granted, I don't believe the problem we have is we have globers.
Let's just say we're standing on a tangent. I mean, yeah, you can just beg the question. Like, you could just say, let's just say the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator proves we've got Earth curve. I mean, you can just say that. However, when you do, the tangent that you're assuming isn't taking a measurement from a curved baseline. And when you pick up a sextant, you're taking a measurement with it. And you're establishing a baseline with it. So to say, well, I just assume a tangent. No, you're holding a sextant, taking a measurement of an angle. So the angle that you're measuring, that's two straight lines. It's never going to be one curved. I assume a tangent.
I'm sorry. Does he not realize that begging the question is fallacious?
Yeah,
is he just cool with somebody just saying tangent? What's a tangent again?
Chocolate, it's worse than that because he doesn't realize you got a minus from 90.
Right. You're going to be establishing a baseline when you take the measurement with the tool. As QE puts it, ballers can't even look at a sextant. It's two straight lines that you're measuring with the tool. One of them is going to be you looking at the horizon. So you're saying, I'm taking an angle. That's a straight line between me and the horizon and a straight line between me and the star or sun or moon or anything you're measuring on land if you're using it terrestrially. Okay. So it's an angle measurer. The device, that's all it does. So you say you establish a tangent. Okay, Jaren, we're talking about navigation, Mr. Big Head. I know what celestial navigation does. Show me the tangent mirror on the sextant, you total bonehead. You don't understand this argument. You've got a horizon mirror in a sextant, and you're measuring an angle with it. So you look at the horizon. That's one line, straight, not curved. Okay, game over globe. How do you measure an elevation angle from a curved adjacent? You don't. You don't have a tangent mirror on a sextant. You've been duped by Toon. That's all that's happened here. Now you're parroting off his argument like we should bloody listen to it from you. You're a flat earther. Why are you parroting off the globe's crappy claim that you can get two straight lines from one curved? You can't.
Actually saying
that's your
celestial
mistake.
navigation.
That's your mistake. You think he's a flat earther. He's not a flat earther. Keep it up.
Proves the globe. That's retarded. That's retarded because we can say to them, what do you mean? Clearly, you could take angles from a flat baseline. Clearly, that's what's needed to do triangulation, and then go from there. And the problem we have...
What, our argument, you mean? You mean you could just disseminate our argument about having to get angles from flat baselines? Like, let's just hear that again.
Whoa, that's retarded. That's retarded because we can say to them, what do you mean? Clearly, you could take angles from a flat baseline. Clearly, that's what's needed to do triangulation. And
yeah, that's our argument.
Thanks, Jaron.
Thanks, Jaron. Yeah, so you do understand the bloody argument then? So when you're holding the sextant, your argument on their behalf, that would be damaging unless we acknowledged it, was that we look through the sextant and look at the tangent mirror, I guess. You bonehead.
Wow, this reminds me exactly of when he was talking to you and affirmed how many times, at least 6 from what I saw from QE's show, affirmed with you that science proves things, yet still having the argument that science doesn't. This convinces me that he doesn't even know what he's saying. He's just saying words. There's no consistency in anything that he's saying.
There's no comprehension.
Yeah. I mean, listen to what he just said. He's attacking us for using the argument that he just said. Yeah, we of course that's how we know we need it. Yeah, we need a flat plane.
So, in other words, his tact or his MO is to attack us as being wrong, and then usurp the fucking argument he's arguing against.
Yep.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah, as you mentioned it, Chocolate. Yeah. When I listened back to QE's show, I went and trimmed them all out. Want to hear them?
Go for it.
Things like science proves this, science proves... I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
It does. Then it was never proof to begin with.
Right, but we did the testing to get to that proof. I said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
Proving your statement as true. A causes B.
We proved the null. I said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right? We proved the null.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If we prove the null, we prove that A doesn't cause B.
Correct.
Yeah.
I said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right? But our test proved that. It's clearly a lie, but they keep saying the same lie over and over again, right? That's how you know you're being scammed. So back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves... I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right? Like, yes, it does. Science proves everything. Like, no, science can't prove anything. It's impossible because you don't have all the parameters. He wanted to argue with me about it. So they keep perpetrating or perpetuating this lie.
A will cause B, and A won't cause B. Both can't be true at the same time. Only one can be true. Because to have A cause B and A not cause B isn't possible. Do you understand?
Sure. No, science can't prove anything, but our test proved that.
Do you understand that A can't simultaneously cause B and not cause B at the same time? Only one can be proven.
Correct.
So one can be proven then, Jaron.
No, science can't prove anything.
I heard you call me a scammer because of, according to you, I say science proves, therefore I'm a scammer. You understand that only one can be proven, and it would violate the law of non-contradiction. If one was true, but the other was a little bit true, then A would be both causing B and not causing B at the same time, which isn't possible.
Correct.
Third attempt. Do you understand that only one can be proven?
Correct. I said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
That one will be true and the other will be ruled out as false because the other is true. So A causing B can't simultaneously exist along A not causing B. Only one statement can be proven. You can't both cause something and not cause something. Only one can be proven. Do you understand? Fourth attempt.
Then I understand.
An experiment is a test of a hypothesis. So first, we need to understand that in a hypothesis, one statement will be proven.
If the experiment's done correctly, yes.
One statement will be proven.
If the experiment's done correctly, yes.
So we can definitely prove things with an experiment then, Jaron. There you go.
I mean, That speaks for itself. Like, what do we need to do after this?
Just
That doesn't say
analyze
anything.
as
We can
Tenth has
analyze
suggested,
So many hotels, so little time.
just analyzes aftermath after I'd left, which is what we'll continue to do now. How long have we been going live? We're already 5 minutes over time, guys. Let's just shout out a couple of super chats before we do anything else. So shout out to Duncan McLeod, who says, Jaron knows he is wrong, but is too stubborn to admit it. What, the thing he accused me of? Exactly. Right? That's what he opened with, accusing me of. The irony. Anyway, shout out to JK. He says, Jaron will just say he doesn't mean prove when he says prove. Right. Thank you very much for the super chats. Really appreciate them. So yeah, we've already run over time. Do you want to do a little bit more reaction? There's like a lot of stuff to react to on this. I can't believe he's done a solid hour on his own.
What minute mark are you on now?
2:13:39. I'm happy to carry on a little bit when we've already gone over the hour. I'm having fun, aren't you?
I think you should, Nathan, because a lot of the show was taken up by me and Tent and all that. With all that.
Yeah, I was going to have a word, but yeah, we can.
It was just 120 watching. Come on.
Okay, fair enough.
Go from there. And the problem we have is these guys going around saying, but then rather than just keep on the points that we have that are great. I mean, Nathan's the one who formulated the, no gas pressure without a container, that formulated the, basic idea of the vacuum of space can't possibly exist next to the Earth. That team formulated some truths and some proofs that everybody still uses. So they definitely had their place. Now, for the last year or two, and I think it started for me, when I first was like, wait a second, was the Witsit event. I know Witsit. I've seen Witsit. Like, the one thing Witsit is not is stupid. So when I hear our own team, our own flat earth debates, call Witsit in and then mute him over and over again, and then laugh at him and call him an idiot and call him stupid because he's looking into the ether, to me is such a travesty. That is...
Go ahead.
Which of us called Witsit in? I remember, from my recollection, he was busy chatting shit in the Discord, and people were saying, get Witsit in, and we said, snort to him, the door's open, he can come whenever. And about a week later, he rocked up. That's my recollection. I don't remember us demanding him appear before the Pentaveret or anything, you know what I mean? It was, but again, we're having to slightly repaint history, aren't we, a little bit?
Not only that, Adam, but Nathan went on Globebusters to talk to them about the scientific method, and then we know what happened. Okay. And here Jaron says they were on our team. Really? Then why'd you treat Nathan so harshly back then if we're on the same team? I mean, this guy's making up stuff.
It was Deislo. Deislo was here talking, and then Deislo went and contacted Witsit, and Witsit came in. That was about the first day.
If Witsit was muted, hold on. If Witsit was muted, what part of his argument was not heard exactly? Because we got a bunch of contradictions from it. So, did he contradict himself, which we can all hear, or was he muted?
Well, we know that it led to Brian and Witsit in the debate because of that show. So obviously there was enough there for Brian to debate him the first go around.
Well, that was a couple of years ago. That was prior to him coming in and having the thing with Nathan those 2 times.
Yeah, but
that was 2020.
But he was talking on the circuit about it before you debated him, and he was on our show talking about it before that.
I don't know if he was on our show talking about it before. Maybe he was. I don't remember him being in here, but I do remember him talking about it, and I remember debating him. I think it was 2020 I debated, December 2020, if I remember correctly. QB pulled it up recently. So that was back then. But he came in last year, I think it was, or earlier this year, twice. First time because of Deislo, and second time about 10 days later because of what happened that day with Deislo.
Regardless,
but the point is, what argument was he not allowed to make? Jaron has an opportunity to say what was muted. Is he going to?
Okay.
Disgusting to me. There's no reason that's uncalled for. It's just, why would you do that? Like, if you have a problem with what he believes, just talk to him like a human being. You don't call people. He's like on our team, for God's sakes. So if you're going to call Witsit dumb, to me, we've got issues. And
so by that standard, if you're going to call me a scammer, we've got issues. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening, Jaron. You called me a scammer, now we've got issues.
Then when you go and say,
because
Bob,
he called us part of the team earlier, like 5 minutes ago, as he was giving us credit for creating these arguments of, you know, gas pressure without a container and shit like that. And then right after that, getting mad because we went at it with Witsit. Now what? So we're not part of the team anymore, Jaron?
Basically.
That what it is?
Basically, yeah.
Well, are you playing on?
What happened to the part of the team when Bob and them stood against the initial time you tried to share the scientific method, which now you try to share again? What happened? You saw subscriber loss. They had the bigger channels. They ganged up against us. They called us names. And now we're revisiting the whole thing again. And look who plays the fool.
I don't think he's playing anything, Kenneth. I'll go ahead and say it for him. They're a bunch of morons. Absolutely.
An agent. And I mean, why? Because he has a different opinion about gravity than you. Now he's an agent. Well, then it went from Witsit.
So there,
What's gravity again?
Different opinion about gravity. Yeah. We would ask that it be shown. Then we'll argue about it. So, asserting... I'm nearly there. Asserting that there is, in fact, a downward bias to need explaining with an incoherent dielectric accelerative force would be to assume and ignore, simultaneously, that things go up. So you ignore the things that go up and only assert that things go down so that you can explain why things go down. Well, that's not the case. So in the case of Witsit, we'd have explained that to him if he's asserting that there's some gravitational force. Now, I recently put out a video that showed the ether scam. So if you'll beg my indulgence for 30 seconds, I'll dig that out as well. Okay, here we go.
Sound on. You've come in for a hearing test. So
is that what you're saying is never going to get me off of my current belief. Right, but we did the testing to get to that proof.
Right?
And that could be proven scientifically.
We proved the null.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If we prove the null, we prove that A doesn't cause B.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, but we did the testing to get to that proof. We proved the null. It's clearly a lie, but they keep saying the same lie over and over again, right? That's how you know you're being scammed. So back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
Right.
And that could be proven scientifically.
We prove that A doesn't cause B.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? That's how you know you're being scammed. So back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, right, but we did the testing to get to that proof. I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right? We proved the null.
We proved that A doesn't cause B.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Everything. Science proves everything. Correct.
Yeah.
No, science can't prove anything. It's impossible because you don't have all the parameters.
Right.
And that could be proven scientifically.
We did the testing to get to that proof. He wanted to argue with me about it. The thing is that what you're saying is never going to get me off of my current belief. So they keep perpetrating or perpetuating this lie.
Vary the amount of vitamin C content in a human bloodstream, you'll get scurvy. It's proven.
You're not getting the point, I guess. I mean, the thing is that what you're saying is never going to get me off of my current belief. The thing is that what you're saying is never going to get me off of my current belief. You're not saying anything that makes me go, oh, Nathan's right. Things can be proven unequivocally.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If we prove the null, we prove that A doesn't cause B.
Correct.
Yeah.
We did the testing to get to that proof, without a doubt. It's not happening.
That's what proof is. That's what proof means. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be proof to begin with. So earlier when you're like, I know some of my compadres say they prove this and that with science.
That's how you know you're being scammed. Now listen carefully.
What science has known for, hundreds of years, and that is the existence of the ether.
That's how you know you're being scammed.
Where are we going with this?
They're scamming.
My issue being you've then gone on within moments to say that science proves the ether.
That's how you know you're being scammed.
Well, I think you can find a scientifically valid method that can validate the ether, but it doesn't exist.
You know science doesn't prove anything, right?
Prove that there is a cause and effect relationship.
The Sagnac experiments proved that the ether is actually there.
Right? That's how you know you're being scammed. Back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
And we could do actual science to prove that we're not on a spinning globe.
I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
24 times farther. Scientifically, we can prove that its angular size is too small. Scientifically, we can prove.
Kept saying things like science proves this, science proves.
Scientifically, we can prove.
I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
Right?
And that could be proven scientifically.
Right? That's how you know you're being scammed.
Well, no, that's the point. If it wasn't correct, oh no, upon systematic experimentation, it turns out that if you apply a little bit more, it does, then it was never proof to begin with.
Right, but we did the testing to get to that proof.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
And systematically ruled out the null.
Yeah?
No, if you'd systematically ruled out the null, you'd be systematically proving the cause of the effect by inducing the cause of the effect when you did it. Proving your statement as true. A causes B.
Oh, I thought you said we proved the null.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If we prove the null, we prove that A doesn't cause B.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's a train wreck, man. Jared, maybe you should just calm down and just listen to the words that are coming out of your own mouth.
You don't care.
It's just double standards.
Hello, this is the Pocket Prepaid MasterCard.
All right.
It's insane that he would say, yeah, you proved the null. The null what? The null hypothesis? Which is part of the scientific method that you're trying to say doesn't prove anything? Yeah, but we did the test to get to that proof. What?
Chocolate, when he says
what is
proof,
wrong
he
with
doesn't mean
him?
that. His word of proof is different. When he says proof, he doesn't mean proof.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
he also
That's
told me that all the people I cite, like David Weiss, who says, as you've just heard, you can prove that scientifically. He stated that if he were to get them on the phone, they would all double down and completely decry their own claims of proof if asked to do so by Jaron. That's what he told me.
Yeah, because Nathan, as you've already stated clearly in the past few days and some time ago, right, they want to use the word science to bolster up their rubbish. And when we call them out on it, they want double standards. We're only supposed to call out the ballers on their nonsense when they claim science, but we're not supposed to be calling out these people. It's like, no, there's no double standards. Anyone, including one of us, who starts spewing any nonsense and calling it science has to be called out, and that's it. And that's the problem they have. They don't want their magic trick to be ruined. And that's all it is.
Yep, exactly. It's a magic trick. If you've got no proof for your claim and you want the people who are listening to you to nod along and assume that you've got better than a standard of proof than anybody could have, you say you've proven it scientifically. You say you've done an experiment. You say that you've formed a theory or it's based on theory. You just say the word science, basically, and people will nod because you were taught in 6th grade that it proves things with a method that shows you empirically, and I had to disseminate to Jaron just then, how it proves things empirically. So once you understand that science proves things empirically, when some tosser 20 years later tells you that they've got science for something, you'll assume they mean they've proven it. And that little magic trick is being used by our own side. Now, us pointing out that they also use the same sodding magic trick that conned us onto a ball by saying science proved gravity, when there's no adherence to the scientific method, and we point that out. Oh, but there's also no proof of science for ether either. Double-edged sword, right? What's the defense? Oh, they're scammers when they say science proves things. No, we're not. No, it just means you've been caught with your pants down using a magic trick that you've got no right in using because you haven't got scientific validity and you haven't adhered to the method like the ballers didn't. You should have to face the music some point, lads.
That's not lost in translation. You've always contrasted the real method with how it's being obfuscated and used to spin a lot of BS. Jared, in that mega-worthy clip that you played, the 55-second long, at the end addressed that. See, how can we trust science when they lied about the, current thing we're not allowed to talk about? Okay, so he is not on the right side of it because he's doing the same thing that they're doing. We have never said anything other than that they've hijacked it and used the valor of it. And all he's doing is coming to us and saying, you're just like the people who stole the valor of
Things
it.
Can
you
be...
don't even represent it right.
Well, hold on a sec. Hold on. Because he's saying that you can't prove anything. That's his statement. And science goes against that. But the real thing is, Jaron,
they use the test to get to that proof.
Hold on. Jaron, if you can't prove anything true, why are you a flat earther? Why don't you just go back to the ball? Because you can't prove what you're saying or believe. What are you doing here?
He's not a flat earther. He's just a conspiracy theorist with beliefs, just like Witsit. And they talk about paranormal stuff and, things of past speculations of red beard giants and stuff like that. And they happen to also talk on another so-called flat earth conspiracy theory. And that's how they pretty much intertwine all that. But they're not like this place. They're not like flat soil.
Okay, but just as Dee's given us a nice segue into beliefs, we'll just hear that clip that Theo sent us.
There is not indicative of your intelligence like globe earthers think that you're smart if you take every bit of your beliefs from somebody else. They literally do not have any beliefs of their own. I mean, you don't need to ask Simon Dan one question about one belief because all you need to do is look in a physics book and whatever it says is what he believes. To me, there's no more worthless existence than that. If I literally had no beliefs of my own, I believed what science said, and that was it. I mean, what a joke. Science has been proven wrong over and over. That's the point of science.
Wow.
If all he has is beliefs, what is he doing here? Why are people listening to him? Even worse than that. Like, I believe this. I don't know it to be true, but I just believe it. Like, okay, go believe whatever you want, retard.
Yeah, because
that's what
it's totally opposite of what we talk about here. We say science proves. He says science don't prove. Why would you believe that?
And he has
except when he says that science does prove, when he affirms with Nathan, when he says things.
That's a different proof.
Exactly.
Correct.
And
so
his platform.
That just shows you he doesn't even pay attention to the words that he's saying. Either that, or he's double speaking so much that he just can't keep a track on it. Either way, it's ridiculous.
And not to discredit Aaron or anybody else that speaks about the speculative unknown and the things that we all ponder upon when we're smoking a nice blunt and having a drink and looking in the stars. That's what he's about. And flat Earth happens to be one of his subject matters that he leans on the most, I guess, as being a self-proclaimed quote flat earther. But he's not on the level. He's not on the level to go up against not just the high-ranking charlatans, but even the small guys like, Dr. Phil and Rumpus and Rufus and all of guys.
Right.
Listen, he's upset because people still use our arguments. That's what it is.
Our arguments.
He has people using our arguments.
Look, stop. No, they're not our arguments, right? When and if I finally have success with people like Jeranism, Dave, or whoever we're trying to help, I want them to own these arguments. I don't want credit. I don't want that. I don't give a crap if they mention me or credit me. I don't care. I want them to win. And to win, they need to own these arguments. When I argue with a baller with these arguments that have been given from QE, specifically the ones I've been given by QE, they are my arguments that I win with. Now, I may, like I'm doing now, credit the originator of the argument. But that does not alter my point, and it's true unilaterally for everyone. When you say to someone else, you can't have gas pressure without a container, the gas we breathe would fill the space. You own that argument. Now, it works both ways. If the person who's opposing you, or you're disseminating that to, says, Chocolate, point a note, can you get me your link? I'll come back to it in a minute. If the person who opposes you says, of course you can, we have a pressure gradient. And you go, well, that's actually just Nathan Oakley's argument. Then you have failed to take ownership also. So not only can you take the victory when you point out that you can't have gas pressure without containment, space is fake, there is no outer space and moon travel, and they come back at you and say, no, there's a gradient. And you go, what, a gas pressure gradient? Well, you need something for it to press on to form that gradient. You still need containment. It's your argument, and your overcome of their rebuttal, I might add, and would be if it was me doing it. So I don't want the credit that Neil's saying when he suggests that they are taking our arguments or using our arguments. No, yeah, it's nice to get credit. Yeah, occasionally it'd be nice to be mentioned as opposed to told that you're a scammer. Yeah, that would be beneficial. But at the moment, I'm looking for a net neutral as opposed to net negative when I'm being the audience is being told I'm scamming people with this information. Now, I'm only trying to disseminate it to Jeran so he can use it against the likes of Toon when he's swindled with science by Toon. That's why I wanted to have it. Now, he assumes, Jeran, that is, that I'm only doing it for the credit. No, I've got to fight the net negative that you're doing. You're telling people I'm a friggin' scammer. So, yeah, I'm going to have to fight that, obviously. But it's not because I want you to positively promote me. I've got a decent enough channel. I've got a community-led channel. Shout out to Frame Chasers, who made this example prevalent in my own mind in terms of why I don't actually sweat this as much as I used to. Back when I went on Globebusters, I didn't have the community that I have now. That's the bottom line. Whether or not Jeran tells an audience that may or may not be subscribed to me that I am a scammer has now very little bearing on the community support that my community, who does understand these arguments, offers me. Because it has very little influence on them. They've either already sod off from him and just don't pay him any attention anyway, or they may not subscribe, i.e. no net positive, when they're told not to by Jeran. So in other words, it doesn't have a great deal of effect, it just stops me growing. Well, that's what Jeran wants. I mean, ideally, he'd have the position where everybody's subscribers were intermingled and everybody buggered off the moment he told them to, and I just was left with no subscribers. That would be in an ideal world, and very nearly happened when Bob did it, back when I went on Globebusters, to highlight the charlatans' use of these science words when they've not adhered to the method. And obviously it cost me dearly. But now things are very different. The community that we collectively have built together is the thing that stops me being wiped out in an instant by a YouTuber that's got much, much bigger subscriber base and, can you even believe it, is in the same subject as me. So even though he's considered authoritarian overall by consensus, it hasn't made any difference. I've not lost a single subscriber from Jeran's 2-hour rant about how crap I am. Made no difference. Because he doesn't have any pull. Doesn't make any difference to my community anymore. And as much as I want to decry the flat earth community, the flat earthers, by stereotype, we have to come up with a different title for what we have built in this community. Because flat earther isn't the correct title. We are in a subcategory now. And it doesn't make any difference what Jeran says about us or me. So when he calls me a scammer, a couple of people have asked me, why didn't you react? He had 15 minutes of ranting at you and it was outrageous. How disgusting. Yeah. Now, water off a duck's back. Number one, because I've dealt with much worse from ballers. But number two, I don't care about Jeran's claims because it doesn't make any difference to the community we have built together. No, has anybody actually approached me going, you know what, I've changed my opinion and think that you're a scammer now? No, of course not. Meanwhile, what's the actual objective here? What are we trying to achieve? Back to Neil's point that I'm disagreeing with. No, I don't want credit. Yeah, it'd be nice if you stopped calling me a scammer, but what I do want is you to win, Jaron, because then we can perhaps have some cross-pollination from our now separate community that we have built here at the tip of the spear of flat Earth, because you're also on that spear, just slightly duller end of the blade. So, as someone who I still can't remember to credit pointed out, steel sharpens steel. And as much as Neil might infer that we want credit for it, no, we don't need it. But it's detrimental to us when you lose with arguments that we're disseminating daily. So I can help with that. Not if you brace against me and call me a scammer while you're doing it. Then I'm going to have to go out of my way, like I've done in the last day or so, to chop together videos that really overtly point out your contradictions when it comes to scientific evidence and proof thereof. Your contradictions are glaring. So now this is going to be to Jaron's detriment when that is not what I want to achieve. Being scummy and not conceding and undoing some of the damages caused means that I've got to try and proactively undo it myself by really making it obvious to the audience how he's and where he is contradicting himself in this respect to scientific proof, and why that would be useful if you're going to lie about having it. That's our point. That overall benefits everybody in the community if they understand it. Not least of all, Jaron. So what am I trying to do when I get in front of Jaron? Am I trying to belittle him? No, I'm trying to undo the net negative of him calling me a scammer and provide some net positive to him personally in his endeavours by disseminating how science proves things and therefore why scammers use the word when they haven't proven things. So I will endeavour to continue with Jaron. I'm nearly there. Last point. I know I've been on a long ramble. Thank you very much for bearing with me. As I said before I went into this, number one, I don't feel any different. My attitude has not changed one iota. I am, as I will, and as I suggested, going to endeavour, when the dust settles, to do the exact same thing with Jaron, for the exact same reasons and the exact same net positive that I feel has come about from me going in front of him. Now, unfortunately, and it is unfortunate, Jaron has caused himself quite a lot of damage over this process, which was not necessary. And he's done it in an attempt to cause me damage, which looks even worse on him. But there we go. Maybe he can undo some of that damage, like I'm having to do with him calling me a scammer. Well, hopefully, we'll meet in the middle at some point and he'll understand why people say they've got science. All of his hard work showing where those people who said they'd got science were scamming and lying. He was right all along. But why did they use the word if it doesn't prove anything? Why would there be a necessity for these liars who said we were on a ball to even use that word if Jaron is right and it doesn't prove anything? There wouldn't be a point. They use it because it's been trained into you from 6th and 5th grade that it does prove things. Now all it needs is those two halves to come together, and I am that zip. Jaron will understand in time that the reason they say they've got science is because science proves. And very little out there has actually got scientific evidence attached to it. And sometimes you've got to really reach and dumb down the examples to things that really wouldn't warrant scientific inquiry, even though they genuinely are cause and effect relationships like water and heat being applied to it to establish it as a cause, independent variable of an effect, dependent variable, so you can formulate it into a hypothesis in a basic format to disseminate the truth and empiricism offered by this method. Now, you can, if you're Jaron, choose to brace against it only to, after I've left the conversation, basically admit that it's really obvious and simple to just understand that water does boil at 100 degrees if you apply heat to it. Therefore, what? It's a useful example for a dumbed-down version of how the methodology proves things? Yeah, it is. But he hasn't. He's chose to brace against it and double down on me being a scammer. Okay? Well, like before, I don't care. Like I say, now I can even recognise the community-led community we have built. That means I don't have to worry about it and don't have to react when he scatterguns me with all that garbage. I don't have to react. I can just say, now I'm going to have another go. Isn't that shocking? Yeah, I'm smiling about it. Yeah? Might not be with my wife. I'm sure she got the moans about Jaron bitching about me. But I kept it personally. Now I've slightly made that public. Yeah, it still hurt, Jaron. Yeah? Hope you take that as some consolation and pain relief. that I moaned to my wife about it. But not publicly, straight onto the subject matter, in an attempt to better Jaren's argumentation. And I will persist. I will try again.
Why? And first of all, let me cover. I did not say to use our arguments like I want them to. He clearly states that it annoys him when he hears people using our arguments. Now that's ridiculous. And that's jealousy.
Two things. One, that link is in Master B for you, Nathan. And two, had you not done that, had you not gone straight into topic and just did exactly what you did, had you sat there and tried to respond to all the ad homs that he threw at you, you wouldn't have been able to get him pretty much to concede the point at the very least 6 times from QE's count from the video that I saw. He conceded the point that science does prove things. He said it himself, oh, you proved the null hypothesis. Oh yeah, great. That would be science proving something. Because if you disprove something, you've proven something else. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you proved it wasn't that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's science, Jared.
Okay.
There you go.
Now, I'm going to have to make a slight apology because I was just one of those where you start chatting about how people have been. Chocolate disappeared for about a week in case anybody hadn't noticed, and then came back and we're like, how's it going? And then we found out, holy crap, Chocolate has very much fallen on hard times at the moment. He's been kicked out of a job and a house simultaneously. So he recently did a give, send, go to try and alleviate some of the issues he was having with his work and home placement. And as a result, he resolved the problem only to have both problems occur immediately and leave him homeless and jobless and, you know, in a position that we wouldn't want any other member of the panel to be in under any circumstances ever. So as a result, I did say I'll focus on this on Monday, and here we are, late in the show, with it as an afterthought. I'm really sorry, Chocolate. I wish I'd given it more focus. Because, yeah, I'm feeling guilty because of shit that you're facing at the moment. Chocolate's having a very hard time of it. Please go and hit up his Give, Send, Go. I've just put a link. Hopefully the mods will repeat that link as I'm appealing to you verbally now. Just go and help a brother out. The guy needs it, and we should all, as I've just literally appealed to the community that we're building and leading and don't need to give a crap about. That is the perfect segue to say, well, now it's time for you to prove me right, okay? Because there's a member of our team, very, very valued member of our team, I might add, that needs to be put into a far less uncomfortable position. Now, previously, he was hoping to better his circumstances where he was struggling and become comfortable. Now he's uncomfortable. Let's just put it that way, to put it mildly. I can't stress that enough. I don't want to necessarily reiterate Chocolate's position beyond what he wants to say. It's not my place. He may go into it a bit more now if he chooses to. You don't have to, Chocolate, by the way. It'll maybe come up at other times if you don't want to necessarily go into it in great detail now. I don't blame you. It's not necessarily going to keep the tempo of the show up, let's put it that way, because it's entirely depressing. I don't want to just put too fine a point on that either. Literally, I'd have to have violins to give it credit, and I haven't. So feel free if you want to, Chocolate, but yeah, go ahead. Or don't.
I appreciate it, Nathan.
Perfect.
I won't try to make a too long of a sob story about it, but yeah, I'm not having the greatest time right now. Basically, like a couple weeks ago, I was kind of forced to leave my apartment and literally homeless for about a week and change, and a week after being able to find some place to live, I got fired from my job of pretty much 5 years. You know, all the background noise you guys been hearing every time I talk. Yeah, I got fired from that.
By some drunk asshole. By some drunk asshole. That's the worst of it, right? Some supervisor comes along, doesn't know his ass from his elbow. Next thing you know, you're getting written up for this and that by some guy who doesn't know his ass from his elbow. The guy's shit-faced the entire time. You're like, what the hell? Life is cruel.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. It was basically being targeted by somebody who definitely should not have been there, and that's just a long story. But yeah,
that's BS, man. That is BS.
It's crap.
Like literally fired for being too eager to work. Like
I mean,
and just being me, you know, like it's just like here. If somebody says something to me that's just nonsensical, I mean, I have to address it. I don't deal with nonsense in my reality, especially like just work stuff. And it's like that type of thing that I had to deal with. And being me, just once I started getting written up and this and that by the same person, you know, it became a targeting that's been going on for about 7 months now since the guy got there. So
yeah, it's crap. You went from telling us about, you know, your, was it MD, like the head of the company, praising you for the work that you do, making yourself indispensable, and then like
CEO.
over a course, it just deteriorated. It was just shocking. I mean, the other thing is, again, based on the fact that we have a decent community to do this with, there was a couple of, while we were hearing about this on Friday, people saying, oh, you should sue them and stuff. Now, having done that myself personally and sued an ex-employer for unfair dismissal and won, I wouldn't recommend it. You know, short term, you know, find new work, find a new apartment, get yourself in order, and hopefully you'll get some temporary relief from the community. I really hope people do actually hit you up on Give, Say and Go. The link's going by in the chat as we speak. Yeah, if there's anything to add, Chocolate, do it now, but we will periodically be shouting this out and thanking people. So, yeah, just so you're all aware, it's going by in the chat right now. Please give generously. Help out Chocolate. Thank you very much. Anything to add, Chocolate?
Is your number the same?
I'll just say once again, Nathan, appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody out there. And again, even if it's just prayer, like I could use that just to get back on my feet.
That's a good point.
I'm not trying to sue anybody. I don't want to go back to the place. I just want to move on, find something maybe better, and just keep it moving. You know?
That's a good point. On the Give, Say and Go link, you don't have to necessarily get my tongue around that again. You don't have to necessarily give generously financially. You can also give, there's a little button that you can press, leave some kind remarks. It's called leaving a prayer. Just leave him a nice remark. It helps in the algorithm in terms of people finding out his particular campaign. So, as I say, just go and leave a nice comment if you can't necessarily afford to support Chocolate financially. He will appreciate the support because he's having a crap time of it if you just say something nice on the campaign. So do that at the very limited, at the very least. Okay.
Chocolate, you still enjoying?
I don't like to be judgmental, but even $1 would do. I mean, everybody. I'm pretty sure. You know, come on, somebody had. I mean, people on here, even at the hardest times, you should be able to afford $1.
I'm sure they will. Right? Are you okay if we crack on a bit more, Jaren? I will add one more thing, actually, Chocolate. From one e-beggar to another, right? It's demoralising and slightly humiliating to put your hand out, right? Nobody wants to do this. I want to make that absolutely clear because it's not very often I actually get an example to contrast with in this case, Chocolate. Nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to e-beg. Nobody wants to be financially dependent on their community. Yeah? Because you can still have your community turn against you, right? That's the bottom line. I mean, that's what Jaren's attempting here, isn't it? Let's face it. But the point is that nobody likes e-begging. Ideally, I'd live off the ad revenue of YouTube. If there was any, right? It isn't. It's all support from the community. Literally all of it, basically, is from the community directly digging into their pockets and giving me money. And more often than not, I've got to appeal to more people to do that, or the people who do it more. And nobody wants to be that way. Right, yeah, you've got to do what you've got to do to survive. And when somebody's trying to take that away from you, as limited as it is, in this case, Jaren, yeah, you've got to do something about that. You've got to proactively try and combat that, right? But just to get us back on track, the idea of me saying I'm going to persist in my attempts to go back to Jaren isn't so he can promote me so I can earn more money via his audience giving me their cash. Now, although that does kind of contrast what I've just said and slightly contradict it, because, yeah, I do want to grow my audience, and, yeah, I do want to get super chats out of them and all the rest of it. Yeah, I've got bills to pay. But that isn't the primary motive. And I'm sure I did mention it as like a tertiary motive previously. So in that regard, yeah, you could say that I am financially motivated to some degree. I am. I do want to pay my bills. Yeah, shocking, isn't it? Right? And my income stream is limited to my community, which is attempting to be stifled by Jaren in his claims that I'm a scammer. Like I say, I'm going to deal with it proactively. But the primary aim is to stop things like the Toon and Jaren escapade. We don't want to see a repeat of that. We want to see people who represent us as flat earthers when we take the community as at large. We want to see our representatives do well. And we didn't see that with Toon. We saw Jaren doing very badly. And now telling an audience how dangerous it is to not understand how we can take elevation angle measurements to a tangent. You're like, what? That's dangerous. You know, because you do represent me, Jaren. So I do want you to do better. Anyway, we're going to crack back on unless someone's got anything to add to that. Hopefully I've segued from e-begging to Jaren nicely.
I have something small. For me, the only advice I give to anyone concerning Jaren, and it includes you, Nathan. Now, it does include you, and it doesn't because you understand anyway. But really comes down to what you'd have to know before you'd speak to Jaren to know whether it's going to be, if he's going to take on board that and you're going to say to him, is you'd have to know his intent. And I don't know his intent. As in, I can speculate what his intent is, but I don't know for definite. So anything you say to him, you don't know if his intention is on purpose to definitely go against you, or if he's just not getting it. You can't state either way. I mean, honestly, you can. I would state, and I would state that the guy has no interest in learning or doing the right thing. That he's only interested in doing things wrong, and it's a purposeful thing, right? But that is me divining his intent.
Okay,
so his intent,
I agree. I agree. Yeah. I can't possibly know that I'm going to ever have success unless I know his intent, and you're right. However, as an aside from the primary motivation to get Jaren to be a better representative for Flat Earth at large, I would also add that there is a tertiary benefit also in regards to the audience at large who hears the conversation. Now, the first benefit I've obviously already gone through, people understanding how science proves and why charlatans would use the words. But there's another benefit on top of that, right? Which is to say that you'll also see the double-edged sword aspect to it. Why is there a confrontation? Well, because if your guru's telling you that he's proving stuff with science, there's a damn good chance that they're not going to want to accept what we are explaining here. Because it suddenly exposes all of that crap that they've lied to you with science, with that they didn't have methodology to back. That's what's happening here. Yeah? Now, Bob's dead, so the primary instigator for all of this at its source, if you will, is now gone. And he was the originator of the ether dissemination with him saying that science proves it. And me saying, well, let's see the method then. Well, that's where it all started going downhill. Because like I say, if your guru's saying he's proving stuff with science and we just come along and go, oh, really? Let's see your science then. That man's a scammer! Ignore him. Anyway, so the science is proven, Ether. Yeah. What's that? He's still around. He's conning you. That's what's happening here. Okay? So the audience sees that. And they also recognize that, it doesn't just work on ballers. It's going to work on other shit charlatans around you that might be flat earthers also, but are peddling a load of old garbage. Maybe they're peddling their crystals and telling you about how scientific they are. Yet suddenly they get exposed, don't they? Because their crystals haven't been through the scientific method. Or their incoherent dielectric acceleration. Or whatever else it is that they've said they've got science for. It all gets exposed the moment you understand what science actually does to prove things.
Can I add that? I'm sorry, but I was just gonna say, can I add that's the part that kind of hurt, or should I say hurt, or like kind of baffled me the most about the whole thing with Jaren, because I don't know Jaren. I don't want to have personal beef with the guy, right? He's just another dude. But it's almost like seeing, like you're in a war and you're seeing your friend who's fighting next to you with no sword, and you're throwing him a sword, and he's like, nah, I'm good. And he's getting his arms chopped off and legs chopped off. And it's like, bro, take the sword I got and just use it. Defend yourself. Kill the person who's trying to attack you. And it's like, no, I'm good. I don't like this sword. I don't want your sword. All these weapons that we're passing them. I mean, hey, how is it that he's cool with just saying, oh, these guys come up with arguments that everybody uses. Everybody knows them. Everybody uses them. He's okay with giving us credit for that. But what? The fact that the Globers used to tell us that science proves things, you stupid flurf. Science proves globe. The fact that they don't say that no more. Do you know why they don't say that anymore? That's also because of us. But we don't need the credit. Like Nathan said, we don't care about the credit. Just use the sword.
It all boils.
I think you mischaracterized. I think you mischaracterized it. He's not only not using the sword that's being thrown to him, he's sleeping with the friggin' enemy.
Hello.
Yeah. The bottom
Now
line
we're
is,
talking. Sorry,
the bottom line is, when all the smoke clears at the end of the day, they don't agree with the scientific method because they feel it is too limited. Now, I don't know, things that are useful that are too limited, like measuring tape, perhaps because you can't Google things with it, or I don't know, a chicken because perhaps it's not salmon. I don't know. Like, all we're trying to say is, hey, the scientific method is used for validating cause and effect relationships of natural phenomena observed, and they're like, not good enough. I want to talk about what things may be. And in order to do that, we have to speculate. I don't know why they have to dump on the scientific method to do that.
No, they don't. They don't. The double standards. I'm glad we got back to it. Nice segue. So their double standards are that they get to use all of the nice, warm-feeling, proof-sounding words like experiment and science. In Jaren's back and forth with me, he was like, yeah, I know the guys around me say science proves this and that. Yeah, we know they do too, Jeren. But they aren't. And you, Jeren, understanding how science actually proves things would mean that you were complicit when they said that.
Jeren is a glober baller that wears the badge of flat Earth. And he's nothing but a subsidiary disciple of Michikuku, who believes that scientific conventional methodology is not necessary in these days. We go by consensus and philosophy. That's where he comes from. That's what he's a student of, whether he wants to admit it or not.
Just pay attention to what you're saying, man. Your argument is science doesn't prove, but again, this is why it was beautiful that Nathan got right on point, because he got him to concede the point. Yeah, science does prove things. Yeah, you could prove that. Yeah. Yeah, we proved the no. Yeah, Jaren. That's science. It's as simple as that. So I don't understand how you don't understand that. It sounds like you're so in a hurry to just speak that you're not paying attention to the words that you're saying.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!